A workflow overview. So I am deliberately recording this at full screen. My workflow, I see people a lot working on their laptops. I can't, laptop is too small a screen for me for a couple of reasons. One of them is that if I have to wear my glasses if the screen is a few feet from my, one or 2 feet from my eyes because of my vision. So it's better for me to look at it on a big screen. But as a benefit from putting it on a big screen, as I have here, um, I can have two, I can have these two windows side by side. So I usually have work like this where I have two things side by side. Either my Finder is showing me uh, two windows, or I'm in Xcode here, which runs my apps, and on the left is the Xcode, and on the right is Visual Studio Code, which is good for text editing and making notes. Um, and it can run Swift, but it's not as full featured as Xcode. Xcode has its problems, but so the two of them I find to be Xcode on the left, Visual Studio on the right. I find to be useful. And what we're seeing here is a sample app that I got from Hacking with Swift. It's a command line tutorial to show you how you can build using Swift to build a command line app. And it demonstrates reading a JSON file and writing a JSON file. And this is generally used if you want to use some programming in Swift, in this case, to prepare your assets for your mobile app. And that's what I'm going to build on to do. So this is useful because it shows reading a JSON file. This is the JSON file here that I'm reading. I put it, I hardwired it to read it from my downloads folder, JSON, sample.json, and we can take a look at what it looks like. So this is sample.json. I'm going to open it up in Visual Studio Code so we can see what it looks like. So this is sample. Actually, this is from the assets folder. So this is some generic JSON. This code is going to read it and display it in Swiftland, and run it here. This is the output, which displays. I've modified Hacking with Swift JSONTidy to print out more debugging statements to show the progress. So this is it. Reading in the JSON. This is how the JSON looks in Swift. Then it extracts it converts it to a dictionary data type, so Swift can access it, and then it accesses this particular entry here, info, and from that entry here, info, it extracts the author. So if we look at the code for that here, this is the code for reading into JSON. The JSON is read in here from that hardwired file, sample.json, and it's generally good to have an overabundance of checks, because when data is coming in, when you're reading data, everything and anything can go wrong. So, and that's the beauty of one of the beautiful things about Swift. It firmly encourages you to make sure that you deal with all the cases that can happen, and that's what the optional null stuff is about. You have to be explicit about dealing with a very typical condition, which is the absence of data. So there's a lot of checks here to make sure that, starting with making sure that the file is available, then successfully converting that file to JSON. If it doesn't, something is reported. Now we have that JSON converted from the file into this JSON variable here, and I'm double clicking on the JSON, the variable that holds the file converted into a Swift object, and we see that it comes back as any. Any is a cover type, a type to represent any value, a generic value. Swift really wants to know the type of a value, but in this case, we don't know. We haven't decided the type yet. So any is is designed to deal with that case. You don't know the type. You don't know the type of the value, but you want to hold on to it and then work on it. So the file comes in as this object JSON type any. This gets printed out here, and we'll see. And I'm very deliberate to make sure that all my printouts are labeled. So here is the printout for that JSON. This is what it looks like as how it's reported by the Swift, the Xcode and Swift debugger. So it's a little different here. This is the JSON. There's quotes around the keys, images. The top level keys are images and info. Images and info. In JSON, it appears in this syntax, and in Xcode, it appears in this syntax. Similar, but not identical. So that's the output of this print statement. This statement here is converting that generic any type to a dictionary, NS dictionary. NS dictionary is part of the older programming framework. Swift encourages you to use dictionary, but we're using NX dictionary because it's more flexible, and so we convert that JSON any type to a dictionary, and this is a check to make sure that that's even possible. If it is not possible, we won't see any of this these statements here. So it's converted. We see feedback here. It says print out. This is the JSON converted to a dictionary. Prints out a dict. You see here, and it's going to be identical. Identical to what's printed out here. Nothing's changed. We've just narrowed down the type, and the benefit of that, now that Swift, the language knows what type it is, there's more operations available. And the first operation we do is extract the info field out of this dictionary. And again, we have to check to see if it matches what we expected. And in this case, it's another dictionary. And when we get that dictionary, we call it info, which matches the key that we use to get it. Info here, info here. And then we extract the key inside a property inside of that that dictionary, the info dictionary author, which is set to Xcode, and it's set to, this is what it looks like in the JSON, and this is what it looks like over here. Yeah, so that's the demonstration of side-by-side going from the JSON world to Swift. This example from Hacking with Swift reads into JSON and gives you options to reformat it and sort the keys, the property names, and then it writes it out. In this case, yeah, so this is what it appears when it writes it out here. This JSON appears like this written out. This is the statement here. if there's, we don't supply output, so it decodes the data that it got, which is the same JSON that it read in. It changes it to a data. Data is a data type, kind of redundant, reflective, recursive, redundant. But data is a data type to hold a bag of bits, and we take those bag of bits and convert them back to a string. The bag of bits that represents the serialization of any JSON type, and then this is what's happening here. We're writing it out, and I'll update this to, this was his code. I'm going to like all my output labeled, so I'm going to make sure that I put a label on that, and I'll run it, and then we see yes output, and I'll put a colon here just because it's a long output, and we see here it says output colon. That's a string that's produced, going this whole round trip, taking it as a text file that is in JSON format, converting it to any data type that's held in this JSON variable, doing some debugging on it to examine the fields, and then converting it back into JSON, and looking at the string that's produced. Here we see the string that's produced looks so it's the string that's produced here. Output string pretty much matches this, except for white space formatting. And yes, so and actually let's adjust that. The white space formatting, it defaults to not pretty printing. So let's make pretty printing true and see what the output looks like now. Oops, failure. Oh, did I do something wrong? Okay, we're coding on the fly here. This is good because it shows us what things can go wrong. I changed it to true. True, this will always be true no matter what. Okay, so it doesn't like that. Yeah, change it to false. Okay, I'll change it to false. All right, we can't do it that way, but we can do it. Okay, so it doesn't like. I want to see it printed. So just temporarily, I'm going to make sure regardless of the flag, I will pretty print it. So now the round trip output to back from JSON over here on the right to Xcode and Swift in-memory data type, which was JSON any, back to a string and a string representation, which is produced here, and we're using the pretty option, which introduces white space to make it more human readable, and here it is. So you see that it matches here and here. Okay, so to recap, we started with this example here. Going back to my notes on the right, we started with this JSONTidy produced by Hacking with Swift, and it's designed to be a generic command line tool, as it says here, to compress and expand JSON, give you some options. I'm interested in it because it works out of the box, and it's a good place to start making modifications if you're looking at reprocessing JSON for your mobile app. On the right, these are my notes about what I had to do to get it to work in what I wanted to do. And here is the code, the app code. um, that is going to read in this JSON and convert it and do some processing. The processing, there's no processing done right now, but we print out some, we print out some the extracted JSON as it appears in Swift as any type. We dig down into that any type to extract the specific fields. Off that, here we see here are the fields being extracted in Swift code, and here's the fields as they appear in JSON, and then we write it back out as JSON here, and it appears back out here as JSON, pretty printed in white space inserted, so it matches that, and that's how it matches what was put in. Pretty much, except for, you know, that the key orders are different here. It says file name, idiom, platform size. Over here it's size, idiom, file name, platform. So there the keys are jumbled around. So we'll do one other quick thing. Let's sort the keys. And yes, so now the keys are sorted. And so sort in the keys, file name, idiom, platform size. Sort in the keys, put them in the same order as how they came in. Okay, that's the recap. Bye.